Hey, this is my third video blog on the 4th of December 2011. Um, I'm going to talk today now about 9/11, which happened in the US on the 9th of September 2001. That was 10 years ago. A lot has happened in 10 years, including the truth has come out time and time again. So much of the truth is out there on the internet and people choose to ignore it. Why? I don't know. They just don't want to know about it. They think that they've got to go out to work, come home, feed the kids, feed themselves, wash the dishes, etc., and then watch TV, numb their brains, and then go to bed. If that's your way, then that's fine. It's up to you. It's your choice. God gave us choice. God gave us a brain to make decisions, and it's up to our choice. It's our choice decides where we go and what we do. What we need to do is start making the right choices. 9/11, factually, and it has been proven to be a big government cover-up. We all know that the war in Iraq was a complete fake. It's all about oil, power, money. We know, or we don't. Most people don't know, but very few people know that Osama bin Laden was a prince in his own country. He owns a demolition company and a developing company, as in a property development company. Very, very successful, very rich, obviously, being out there in Iraq. And he's Muslim. Al-Qaeda, which Osama was one of the top dogs supposedly in, Al-Qaeda is as fictitious as Popeye or Mickey Mouse. They were completely made up out of someone's pea brain idea from the CIA, which everyone took hold of. The media did all the coverage on, and everyone believed. Osama bin Laden had nothing to do with 9/11. Osama bin Laden was used as a patsy or a scapegoat, and of course because of that the whole world turned on the Muslim people, who essentially are very peacekeeping people. The proper Orthodox Muslim people are those that do genuinely pray every day and do genuinely turn to their God every day. When I say their God, that's Allah, the moon god, which is a whole different blog which we can go over some other time. We'll do that one at a different time. Okay, so remind me, okay, about Allah and the Muslim religion. Bush Senior, Bush Junior, and even now Obama are all about the New World Order. It's all a complete conspiracy, not even a conspiracy theory, it's a truth that they are in coalition, is that the right word? Anyway, they're in cahoots with the Pope, the Catholic Church, and all the other prime ministers and presidents around in all the other countries. The Freemasonry, which they're all Freemasons, they're all part of the Freemasonry, Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, it's all one and the same thing, are all about this new world order and world domination. World domination seems like one of those science fiction movies, doesn't it? Like Flash Gordon with Emperor Ming, or Star Wars with the Empire, Darth Vader. Well, essentially at the moment, Obama is pretty much along the lines of Darth Vader. I'm sorry if you don't like that. He's a black man, supposedly. He's half black, half white, half Muslim, half Christian. He can only be one or the other. He can only be black or white, Muslim or Christian. You do the math. 9/11 is a complete cover-up simply because as Freemasons they follow an 11-year cycle, 11-year rituals, and they follow the sun. They worship the sun. If you notice, everything and anything that has anything to do with Freemasonry, Illuminati has the eye, the all-seeing eye, in the logo or the sun. One way or another, there's something. If you look at BP Petroleum, British Petroleum, they've got the sun. They've got the green background with the sun. Um, Texaco, I do believe, have got the sun. Exxon, I think, have got the sun, or have they? I can't remember with them. But they're all the huge oil corporations, predominantly American-owned. The sun works on an 11-year cycle. Every 11 years, there's a major solar flare or something like that, which affects our whole planet in in some way or another. Now, the Freemasons worship the sun. That's age-old tradition, and in doing so, they know that they need the New World Order, which they're all aspiring to rule this world with, is about reducing the world's population at the moment, of which is about 7 to 8 billion people. Now, if you ever imagine trying to, if any teachers here, if you imagine you're one teacher and you've got about 30 people in your class, 30 children, it would be so much easier to control five children than it would be to control 30, right? Well, it's the same as the world population. The New World Order would find it so much easier to control 1 million or 8 million people than 8 billion people. So they're killing off everyone daily, hourly, around the whole world by persecuting Christians, by various forms of earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, Katrinas. I've talked about these previously. All these are controlled and instigated by HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. Now with HAARP, it creates all the problems in this world, and that's what the New World Order is all about. Now 9/11 was all part and parcel of that. 9/11 was instigated by the Bush family, Bush Senior and Bush Junior. Now in that it was a ritual. It was 11 years after Bush Senior publicly declared New World Order in a public speech. 11 years on from that major declaration of the New World Order, public declaration, then 9/11 happened, which killed countless people. Now, just an aside track on that, if you think about the World Trade Center, which killed thousands of people, the World Trade Center everyone believes to be just the Twin Towers, right? Okay, the Twin Towers were demolished in a controlled demolition. We'll cover that. But supposedly the planes, the two jet planes, hit the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers. In actual fact, the World Trade Center is 7 buildings. It's an area with 7 buildings in it. The Twin Towers came down. Now, amongst all the confusion and the smoke and the debris that happened at the time, the other 4 or 5 buildings also came down in controlled demolitions, which no one even knew about or even said anything about, and media didn't even cover it. But if you go on YouTube and look it up, you'll find there were 7 buildings in the World Trade Center, of which the Twin Towers were 2 of them. Now, where the conspiracy comes in is that, I can't remember the guy's name, I think his name was Silverstein or something like that, Joel Silverstein, I can't remember, something like that. He actually purchased the lease for the World Trade Center approximately 8 weeks before 9/11 happened. He got the deed on a 99-year lease. He purchased it. Now, on purchasing the lease for this whole area, he then increased the insurance by some preposterous percentage of like 300% or something. He increased the premium for the insurance on this lease and the property. Then, of course, 8 weeks later, 9/11 happens, and bang, who gets a huge cash payout on insurance? Okay, that is not a theory, that is a fact. The 2 planes that hit the towers were not 2 planes at all. These two towers were steel structures. They were made from steel as like the skeleton. Basically, you could say the skeleton is steel. Now, if you can imagine, those airplanes are quite flimsy. They have to be quite light to get up there. Now, of course, they weigh tons and tons, but with the thrust and power, they've got to be quite light, and most of the fuel is carried in the wings. So if you imagine these wings are hollow, just the same as the tail, and the tailplane is quite flimsy because it has to move around. So if you imagine one of these planes actually hitting a steel structure, have you ever watched the videos and seen if any debris from the plane fell when it hit the building? You will find that none of the debris from the plane actually fell when it hit the building. You'll find every single ounce of that plane went straight into and through the building. Then when the explosion happened from the inside out of the other side. It didn't even explode on impact. It went into the building and exploded on the outside. So with that in mind, you'd think, well, if all that fuel is in the wings, wouldn't the fuel explode as soon as it hits the building, which means it would explode on impact? That would generally be the logical thing that would happen. That's what happens. And it shows in the movies have all the truth, and that's what generally happens. And also think about this. Whenever you see a plane crash, there's always a bit of a wing or a bit of an engine or a bit of the tail scattered somewhere in very visible view to prove that the plane it happened, it had broken off. Okay, can you imagine the whole of a plane going straight through a steel structured building? It is a fact these were holograms. Now, for those of you, what do you mean a hologram? You need to do your research on this. If you go to stores, big stores in America, some big stores actually use hologram images of people to welcome you as you walk in the store. As you walk in, this person or this image welcomes you, and you just walk straight through them as you walk in. They also on Sky News, I've seen that they have people appear in the studio as a hologram, reporting maybe from Denver or from Washington or from down in Florida, saying that they're down in Florida and are reporting live from this thing, and they're actually a hologram appearing in the studio in New York. So holograms are very real. And case in question, if you remember your very first Star Wars film, where Luke Skywalker finds R2-D2, and he has a little hologram image of Princess Leia, and she has to give the message to Obi-Wan Kenobi. She says, "Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only chance." It's a hologram image. So that movie came out in early 80s, if you remember. So they gave us the information in the movies about holograms, and we think, well, that's just science fiction. That's just something that will never happen. Now, if that information came out in the movies in the 80s, that technology has been around at least probably 50 years before that. The military have technology hidden secretly from us for a good 30, 40, 50 years before they even release it in the movies, which is then perceived as science fiction. But it's not, it's fact. And then we have to try and compute it in our brains as to how real it can be. So 9/11 was a big fix-up. Osama bin Laden, from what I gather and all the research I've done, and I've done a lot of research on this, was part and parcel of the demolition company that demolished those buildings. Now, if you think about any building that's got a huge chunk of one side taken out because of the explosion, wouldn't it, if the explosion happens here, wouldn't it keel over like that and then collapse instead of just going choom? Logically, think about how a tree falls when it's chopped. It doesn't just disappear into one, no, it falls over sideways. That's the way gravity works. So everything's completely wrong with 9/11, and yet people just choose to think, oh, well, the government say Osama bin Laden was behind the terrorist attacks, and that's not necessarily the case.